everyone. This is Startup Bright, and today we have Alex with us. I met Alex at Kodu Startups event a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
That's where we met, yeah.
And Alex is an investor, and we decided this time to do something different at Startup Bright. Instead of interviewing startups, we decided to interview an investor and see investors' point of view of investing in startups.
Cool.
And I hope we're going to have a good perspective.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So I understand you just recently moved to LA?
Yes, I arrived a little bit more than 3 months ago. And so far, the weather is nice in LA. And people are very, very welcome. And it has been a blast.
Nice to hear that. How do you like the traffic?
I was trying to avoid that topic,
Okay.
but now that you mention it, you gotta be used to it, I guess, right? So, but it's part of the adventure. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's part of LA.
Yeah.
You have to accept it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Alex, I understand you have a company or you manage portfolio that
Yes.
is investing in startups. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, what
Yes.
kind of startups you invest in, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right. So my firm, I'd say, is a little bit different than any, regular investors firm because we're a startup studio. So what that means is that we actually have internal talent that can help co-build the startup and help the entrepreneur execute, right? And that's actually a funny thing because, when I participate to a panel of investors, right? Usually what an investor is going to ask himself is this guy that I see over there that is just, pitching, is this person able to actually execute his plan? Right?
Yeah.
But me as a startup studio, since we have internal talent, when I see a pitch, I'm going to ask myself a different question.
Okay.
Which is, am I, as a startup studio, am I able to execute his or her plan?
Oh, I see.
Because see, if we do have internal talent, we don't need that person to have all the required skills to be that perfect entrepreneur. Because let's be honest, those people are kind of scarce, right? So we complement, the entrepreneur with our skills. That's a different question, right? That's a different way of investing.
Yeah.
And by having these internal talents where we are helping to execute, it means that we can invest way more earlier. We actually can invest just based on an idea on a napkin, right? If someone tells me about an idea and I feel like this person has a kind of vision, I can already start doing stuff with him.
Okay.
Or her, yeah? So that's the difference. I think that other investors, since they don't have these internal skills, they depend on that team, right, to execute. So they will come at a later stage, whether they have some traction, an MVP, or prototype, or customers. So that's the difference between the firm. That I founded with my co-founders.
Okay. So let me ask you this: when I look back, I have the feeling that back in the days it was really hard to build anything. Right.
Yes.
You have to have a craftsman. You have to have somebody that has done this for years and been apprentice to somebody else and so on and so on. So building stuff was the key. Building stuff was hard thing to do.
Yes.
Right. What I see lately, especially we're in technology here. So with technology, building stuff is not the thing anymore, in my opinion. Building is not the problem. And
it shouldn't be the problem.
Yeah, and what I see let me put it this way. I haven't seen a startup failing to build the dream that they have. They fail later in the game. They fail with marketing. They cannot bring it to the customer. They don't understand their customers, or they realize that they build the wrong thing.
Yes.
Right.
So that's a recurring problem that I've lived myself. So I know how that is. And this is a thing that I see a lot of the time. And usually with first-time entrepreneurs. Because it feels like now being an entrepreneur is kind of a trend. Like everyone wants to build that app, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's a trend that we live in. Being an entrepreneur, people think that it's about building that app, right? But it's not.
It's not.
It's really not. Yeah. And that's where I feel like there is a problem. When I meet with first-time entrepreneurs, they are so proud of showing me mock-ups or a prototype or, in the worst case, in my opinion, like an MVP.
Yeah.
Because the risk nowadays is not in building the product, in the technology. It's really into finding out what the customer needs. Can I find, and what customer needs, but also what, how do I attract them? How do I find them? How do I achieve product market fit? That's the real challenge. And I mean, the way you can actually see this is how many millions of apps do you have out there? Like building an app, people can do it. It's not an unknown. You're gonna have a good team. I'm not saying that it's like this. I'm saying that if you have, like, if you know what you want to build, you will find a team to build it.
Yeah.
But before you do that, you gotta make sure that it actually fulfills a customer's need, and that's where it's lacking. People forget about this thing because they fall in love too soon, too early with in their product, and you know.
There is also this moment where, you know, these are built by technology people, right? So I can always, as a technologist, hide behind the saying that, oh, they don't buy it because this feature is missing.
Oh, yes.
Or I'm gonna release it only when it's perfect, but it's perfect in my mind, right?
Yeah.
It's not the actual need that you need to fulfill with that application.
And the reason why that is, it's because it's so much more comfortable to stay behind your computer or asking your CTO, hey man, I cannot sell because you got to make that feature. Like my cousin told me that, you know, if you don't make that feature, I'm not be able to, he won't use it and I will only be able to sell it to other people.
Yeah.
That's what's happening because it's so much more comfortable. But that's not the way how you build a business. You gotta get out there, get out of the comfort zone and start selling. Because another question that I ask entrepreneurs is, imagine that your app is beautiful. It's done. It's in your pocket. It's even better than you could ever imagine in it, right? What do you do then? And then you start thinking, I could actually, you know, distribute it. I could actually have to find people to test it and start, you know, using it. Because it's like people think that, you know, building a startup is 1, build a product, 2, put it on the App Store, 3,
pray.
You know, it gets successful. That's how people think it is, but it's really not. Even if you have the best product, if you don't have a method to put it out there and having people see it and test it, well, you will get nowhere, even if it's the best product ever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for people that have been through this kind of game over and over again, they develop kind of sixth sense for that. But for first-time entrepreneurs, which I've been myself, I've done this mistake. I've developed for 1 whole year a beautiful platform. And after 1 year of development, 1 full year, hours of development, millions, maybe not millions, but a lot of lines of code, how many users did I have after 1 year? How many users? 2. Me and my co-founder. But that's a true story, right?
Okay.
And so since then, I was so shocked by this experience. It was a very hard experience, but now I'm very happy about it because I learned so much of it. But how is this possible? How can you avoid all this, right? And so that's why we started doing the startup studio, and we have learned a lot of things, and we are able actually now to test and validate ideas way more quicker than that.
So let me get this. You ask of startup founders to have a good idea, and then you evaluate that idea to see if that fits with your startup studio talent.
So yeah, the way it goes, I don't judge ideas anymore because I used to, but when we would actually do the test, I would always be surprised.
Or just pick up the idea. And
so the way that happens, right? So I got to see a lot of pitches, right? And the few things that I ask myself when I see a pitch, First, I mean, it's very emotional, but do I have a sense of this problem that this person is trying to solve? Do I get it? Do I get it? I think it's a very important thing.
Yeah.
Do I understand what he's trying to do? If I don't get it, I won't get easily emotionally attached. And a pitch is very short, right? So that's why it's important. So if I get it, if I understand the problem and I feel attached to that problem, which happens to me very easily because I get excited very fast, then I ask myself two more questions. One, do I feel like this person has integrity? Like, is this person legit? Or is he trying to make up a whole story, you know, like humility or being humble is to me some kind of criteria, right? Again, it's more of an emotional, but I get to have a connection, right? And then the last question that I ask myself, just for that pitch, is me as a startup studio, can I bring that project to a 5 million recurring revenue in the next 3 years? And some investors, certainly in LA where you have a lot of money here, they will say 5 million is nothing. But again, it's all about perception. If my team can handle, just based on that pitch, a 3 million recurring revenue in 3 years, that means that we'll be able to at least do something about it and see how that goes. That's kind of question that I am asking today. Maybe later it's going to be other questions, but that's the way I go about it, just for that pitch. And then we go to another process, right? Which is, again, we invest at the idea stage. So they should not have an MVP. They should be more or less first-time entrepreneurs, because otherwise the startup studio doesn't add that much value to them, because they have done this before. And we do want to bring a lot of value on the table. So they shouldn't have an MVP, because if they already have, it means that they have the wrong reflexes. So we gotta invest very early, and also if it's very early, we take a lot of risk, but high risk, high reward. That's the way we see this. But then the way we validate very quickly if an idea makes sense, and also about the quality of the person that takes the project, the entrepreneur, we try to test the riskiest assumptions. And usually the riskiest assumption of a project, of an idea, is, can we generate interest for that idea? Can we generate some kind of customer traction? So we have a team of around 9 to 10 people. They do this every day. They take an idea, they extract assumptions, the riskiest assumptions, and they are going to build test scenarios just to test those assumptions. And test scenarios, it can be a lot of things. It can be, for instance, ads that generate traffic on a website, and we see the behavior. Do people buy what we're selling them or not? Basically, it can be this, but it can be many other things as well. Just to see, are we able to get that interest from a customer? Can we generate customer traction? If we can do this, it's kind of for us a due diligence. Then we'll invest the first tickets to build the MVP. That's the way we go about it.
So if I have an idea and I come to you and I pitch the idea and I satisfy the 3 criteria that you just listed, then what? Then what happens with me as the person that had the idea? Like, do I work with you, continue working with you, or you?
Yeah, that's a good question, of course. So we have been entrepreneurs ourselves, so we have a lot of respect for the entrepreneur, right? And we don't want to force any collaboration that they wouldn't want. So, doing this due diligence where we test the riskiest assumption is the first step in which we can collaborate together, right? And it's no strings attached. So the way it happens, so we're going to invest, it costs around $15,000 to do our due diligence. It's kind of expensive, but it's a good due diligence because we test, customer traction. But what's important is that by sending those leads, by generating customer traction, you generate leads, and you send those leads to the true entrepreneur. And then you see what's happening. What does he do? What does she or he do with those leads? And usually, people will say, "Oh, I will wait until I have my MVP to actually contact them again." This for us is wrong. We want, because then it means that the entrepreneur doesn't have what it takes to try to bring that value to his or her customer, right? So we test 2 things. We're doing this due diligence. So we also test like the ability, the drive of the entrepreneur. So if the test goes well, meaning we're able to get a good collaboration with the entrepreneur and generate customer traction, then we'll offer like a pre-seed investment, right, to build the MVP. And so we offer that. Now, if the test doesn't go well, whether it's we're not able to generate customer traction, it doesn't go well, we don't feel like it, or the collaboration with the entrepreneur doesn't go well, which can also happen, then we'll just say, we're not interested, we just lost 15K doing the due diligence, but that's fine, that's what we do. And then we just go apart, they remain their idea, or IP, whatever they already have, we just go apart. Now, in the case that the entrepreneur, in the case that the test, the due diligence, is good, but that for some reason entrepreneur is not, feeling a good collaboration with us and they don't want to accept our pre-seed investments, that's fine. But since we did take the 15K investment at first to do the tests and generate customer traction, then we'll just ask for a reimbursement plus an interest rate on that. But we don't want to force any collaboration that is not. We want to build strong and sane relationships with the entrepreneur.
So, and then let's say everything goes fine. You like the entrepreneur, you like the idea proved to be a good idea, and then you move on to building the MVP.
Yes.
So you build the MVP, and then you use that to pitch, or you use that to test customers and continue refining, because there is a lot of misconceptions about the MVP. I don't even want to start that conversation, but let's say that first iteration was successful, and then you move on with the second iteration, or you look for investment. What happens?
I don't know if it's necessary to define what is an MVP, but it's all about finding ways to provide value to your customer, right?
Yeah.
And usually, let's think about this. An app or tech or software is just there to reduce costs, automate processes, optimize processes. That's why we have tech. It's just a tool. But when you have 10 customers, when you have hundreds, usually there are ways that you can bring value to your customer without the need of tech. So we're going to build tech depending on the amount of customers we're able to attract and to convert, right? I can give you a lot of examples like this, but the main thing is the entrepreneur and ourselves, we got to focus on, okay, how do we bring that value to our customer? And usually we ask ourselves the question, what can I do today to bring that value to my customer tomorrow? And when I say today and tomorrow, I mean like really today and really tomorrow. Because building an app, it takes 6 months or whatever, So asking ourselves that question over and over again, it means that we focus only on bringing that value to our customers first, and then the rest will follow. Because eventually, okay, you will have to hire people to increase, the amount of customers. Oh, but it costs a lot of money to hire. Maybe we can automate some stuff out of it. So, and then you ask yourself the right question at the right moments, right? Okay. So, building the MVP, when I said, testing and then building the MVP is like the shortcuts. But we ask ourselves the question and we iterate over and over again. Like, first we're going to do this to automate that process, then we're going to do this, depending on the bottlenecks that we encounter when we grow the user base, the customer base.
So what I like of the process that you just described is you're just building a business. You're trying to build a business.
That's the purpose of being an entrepreneur, no?
No, because if you look at or hear all these startups that pitch at different events, I have the feeling that these people are looking for somebody to give them money to start doing something. Where the problem, I think, it needs to be checked a little bit earlier than that, right? As you said, who is your customer? Are they interested? Do they have this problem? Or the problem is just in your head, right? Because usually people say, I have this problem, so eventually, million other people have the same problem. That may be true, may not be true, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do during the testing phase, testing the assumptions. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
All right, so then I'm pretty sure that the question about equity comes early or late.
Yes.
How is that? How do you address this issue or this problem or this situation?
So the reason why we invest very early is for that matter as well, right? Because since we invest, again, based on an idea and a piece of paper or a napkin, right? We figured this out with the entrepreneur because he doesn't have an MVP yet, he doesn't have customers, he doesn't have nothing. So evaluating an idea,
it's a tough job.
It's a tough job, right? But that said, we know that during the journey of the entrepreneur, if everything goes well, there will be a lot of dilution, right? The more they go further, the more diluted they get.
Yeah.
So pragmatically, right, it will depend from one idea to the other, also about the money that will be required to actually develop this. But to give you a few benchmarks that we have, which by the way, are very different from one market to the other. Because being in the US, this is what I've discovered here, is very different than being in Europe. Like numbers, valuation are very different because it's like offer and demand. You have a lot of money out here, but you don't have that many good projects. So it's like valuation goes up because of that, right? So every market is different. But to be pragmatic about it, usually building an MVP, which most of the time is building a software or an app, it's going to cost 100K. And 100K is already a lot of money because if it costs more than that, that means that you don't have an MVP. You have much more than an MVP. So you should really focus on the must-have features. So if you need 100K to actually start building the MVP and grow the user base, we're going to put that money on the table to actually build that. We want to have around 12% of the company for that. It will depend again on the market, on what's happening. But in other way, what that means is that we value the idea around $1 million, right? Which is very generous to my point of view. But it will depend on the capital required later on, and we got to find. We're gonna make sure that the entrepreneur himself or herself is taken care of, and also to make a good team, you will have to incentivize, maybe a CEO, maybe a CTO, maybe other talents, and we want to make sure to have also enough equity available for those people. Now, of course, if it's a more complex project where we got to put more money on the table, then those are variables. But I want to still get that there because there's more or less the way it happens with us.
All right. So are you the only one person here from Startup Studio?
Yes, I'm the only one. So we are around 40 people in Belgium. And the good thing about Belgium is that, I would say that the quality of talent is similar because we have great education, great talent over there, but the price is half the price. Because just cost of living there is different. So that's why I like the fact that, I know those people, I've been working with them for 5 years, so I know their quality. I think that hiring is very complex because, it's like gambling. You can find someone great, but until you actually work with those people, you don't really know what they're capable of. So that's why I like the fact of knowing my people, what they're capable of and the way they execute. We also have our processes, of course, to make things much more smooth. But I'm the only one here so far because I'm just testing, is there a need for a startup studio to be here? Are there interesting startups that I want to meet? Are there also other investors that I want to meet to see if they like the way we do things? Maybe you can partner up because I feel like we're bring a lot of value to the entrepreneur, reducing the risk, which can also be interesting for other investors as well. So I'm trying also to meet with those investors to see if there are any collaboration that are possible. So I already told this, but the main lesson that I learned from my experience, and again, I'm still very young, so I got a lot to learn about it, but people built their product way too fast. And it is to me a warning sign. You should be very careful about that. Secondly, I feel very passionate about founder versus CEO. A founder should not become the CEO of his startup. That's something that I feel very passionate about. Of course, there are always exceptions, right? But you are building a business, you are building a baby, right? You're building that thing. And a founder is very emotionally attached. He has this great vision, right?
Yeah.
But it's not per se the best person to grow the company, because when you think about a CEO, he or she is a very important person, and they gotta have. It's a unique talent, to be a CEO. You gotta have management skills. You gotta have
leadership skills.
Leadership.
You have to execute. It's a chief executive.
You gotta understand things so fast. You gotta make decisions so fast. If you are emotionally involved as a founder, you might not be the right person. Also, I think that founders, and again, I've been there. Founders, they think they are entitled to that thing, and it's their company, but you gotta think about the baby. Who could be the best, manager, or the CEO for the baby? Who could be the best dad, or whatever that you want to call it, for that baby? And usually, the answer is you're not that person. And myself, I feel like I'm the founder of my startup studio, but I'm not the CEO.
I see.
Right? I'm not that person, because it's two different mindsets: creativity, visionary stuff, and then you have management skills. It's very operational stuff. Very different.
I would like to hear from you. How can people find you? Do you have or anything that you can offer for our anything that you can offer to our clients, our customers?
Yeah. So first of all, so my name is Alexis Bedoret. You will probably put.
I'll put that in the show notes.
So the easiest way to contact me is by LinkedIn, right? And of course, we have a website. I will show you information as well. I love hearing about ideas. So since we had that process, we're very open to getting to know each other by trying to understand what is the idea, how we can test that. So I spent big chunk of my time working on that. I love trying to figure out, okay, what this idea, how can we test it? I feel like I have a sixth sense for that.
Okay.
And I always say, if you have an idea and you believe that we are not able to test and to validate it without an MVP, without writing a line of code, well, challenge me. And I always said, if someone can, be that person that says it's not possible, I will, offer him a lunch or a dinner, because I haven't found that person yet.
All right. I guess that's a good ending.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming to Startups Bright. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.